الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Just a quick reminder that things in this life is all test for us. The book of Allah that we were talking about before Salatul Ishaa is a test. وَالْقُرْآنُ حُجَّةٌ لَكَ أَوْ عَلَيْكَ, as the Prophet ﷺ said. The Quran is either hujjah, an evidence for you or against you, because the Quran explains everything, the believers, the disbelievers, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, what we are forbidden from doing. So either the Quran will take some people to Jannah, or the same Quran takes other people to the hellfire when they don't follow the words of Allah and the Sunnah and the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And therefore, to understand the Quran is such an essential thing for every Muslim, whether a person has the knowledge or to ask the people of knowledge, and to humble ourselves to ilm, and not to think that we know by just reading a verse, understanding the language is sufficient, as some people think, or reading a translation already we know what needs to be done. This is not the case. We have to respect the ilm and ask the people of knowledge. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ reported by Imam Ahmad and others, and it's an authentic hadith, and Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah authenticated it, that the Prophet ﷺ said, and the hadith might sound strange to some because they maybe never heard it before, which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, halaku ummati fil kitabi wal laban. The destruction of my ummah is in the book and the milk. في الكتاب واللبن. فقالوا يا رسول الله وما الكتاب واللبن? What is, O Prophet of Allah, the book and the milk? He said يتعلمون القرآن فيتأولونه على غير ما أنزل الله. This is the destruction in the book. They learn the Quran and they explain it not according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it down for. This is their destruction in this. Not that the Quran destroys them, it's that they would learn the Quran and يتأولونه, ta'wil, tafsir. They would explain the Quran and understand the Quran not according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it down. And al-laban, what is the milk? He said وَيُحِبُّونَ اللَّبَنَ فَيَتْرُكُونَ الْجَمَاعَاتِ وَالْجُمَعَ وَيُبْدُونَ من البداوة. And they love the milk, so they leave the jama'at and the jumu'ah, and they yubdun from al-badu, that means they leave and they go away to live away from people like the Bedouins, like this, because they love to do these things. So they would destroy themselves when they stay away from the Jumu'ah and the Jama'at. And it doesn't have to be that specific thing. It can be different things from different cultures, as the ulama they say. And we have to look at what is the thing that takes us away from the Jumu'ah and the Jama'at, wal-'ayadhu billah. If there is something that takes us away from the Jama'at, to establish Salatul Jama'ah, to establish Salatul Jumu'ah, of course, which is many people, they don't skip that, but also the 5 daily Salah in Jama'ah. What is taking us away from this? This can be a step after another to destruction, but of course the hadith says those who would leave the Jama'at. Because there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that one of the characteristics of this ummah, that أيما رجل أدركته الصلاة, there's no man, the salah time comes, the time for it, he prays in whatever place. وَجُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا. And the earth has been made for me a place of salah and a place of purification. فَأَيُّمَا رَجُلٍ أَدْرَكَتْهُ الصَّلَاةِ فَلْيُصَلِّ. So therefore any man, any person that the salah time comes, he should pray. If he's close to the masjid, he prays in the masjid. If he's not close to the masjid, he prays in whatever place. And of course it's best to make sure that it's Salatul Fard is to be prayed in Jama'ah. But the point here is, when someone is, say for example, someone likes a nice house or a nice neighborhood that doesn't have a masjid, far away from the masajid, so he does not pray Jumu'ah or Jama'ah or whatever. And he might have even a valid excuse. Masjid is far away from him. But then what is goodness in this life? What's that going to do to him after some time? When he doesn't see a masjid, when he does not pray Jumu'ah, does not pray Jama'ah. this can be the means of his destruction. And the same thing with milk. Is not haram to drink milk or to go outside and it's not about a picnic or something that people go for a day. No, people would keep on doing this and leaving the jama'at and the jumu'ah till they are destroyed and the deen becomes weak in their hearts. But the first part of the hadith is also with regards to the book of Allah. So one of the biggest fitan that is happening, and it's been, of course, but it's become more and more, maybe you guys may be away from it, but it's happening in the Muslim world more, where people, they try to deviate people from the truth by explaining the Quran according to their own desire. And the Quran, as Umar radiallahu anhu said, حَمَّالُ أَوْجُهُ, has many different meanings. If you want to get whatever you want from the Quran, you'll get it. All deviants, they can get from the Quran whatever they want. And that's why the Quran has to be explained. And this is not for myself or for you. Or, those who would explain the Quran are the people of ilm, of knowledge. And the people of knowledge, they explain the Quran based on the Quran and the Sunnah and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the Tabi'een and the language. And it's a huge, it's science by itself, requires ilm. And there is major difference between someone, as even the ulama, they call this, and we should call ourselves in the right perspective, ناقل العلم ليس بعالم. When you convey the ilm, you're not necessarily a scholar, but you're doing a good thing when you convey the message. So this is what we need to do. We're conveying the ilm, right? Saying the ulama said this, the ulama explained this. But for someone after some time, the ulama said this, the ulama said this, and then all of a sudden he finds followers and people like what he says. So then he starts saying things based on what he thinks, or he spent years and years reading the Quran and learning the tafsir, so he starts making up his own stuff away from the way that this ummah has been established. And the shaitan doesn't leave anyone. If a person is alive, shaitan has a hope in that person. He has a strategy and a plan for him, right? And the kaid and the plots of shaitan is weak, of course, if a person is firm upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not to leave the matter or to be at ease with it. And it's a very sad thing when you find sometimes people sitting and they're discussing ayat of the Quran from no basis of knowledge whatsoever, no statements of ulama, nobody. Where that come from, Allah knows best. And you never know the danger of a word that a person would say and things like this. So the hadith is يَتَعَلَّمُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, they learn the Quran, فَيَتَأَوَّلُونَهُ عَلَى غَيْرِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. So they would explain it different than the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it down. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the Quran for people to learn it in a certain way, in a specific way, so that people would apply the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accordingly. Another thing quickly also, inshallah, we are in the month of Dhul Qa'dah, which is a Shahrun Haram, one of the sacred months, the 4 months, 3 consecutive ones, which is Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah and Muharram, and then you have Rajab. And these are the months of Hajj. The months of Hajj starts from Shawwal. Shawwal is not a Shahr Haram, it's not a sacred month, but it's one of the Ashhur of Al-Hajj. And the meaning of the months of Hajj, that means a person can, as we were hearing yesterday from Shaykh Muhammad about the rulings of Ihram, that you can initiate Ihram in Shawwal. And that's how Ramadan finishes. Right after Ramadan, Hajj starts. Shawwal and Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah, these are months of Hajj. That means if someone, the first day of Shawwal, he made Ihram to go make Hajj Ifrat, for example, to be Mufrid, he can stay in Ihram all the way till he makes Hajj. Of course, this is a very difficult thing. Or if he makes Tamattu', if he goes in Shawwal, makes Umrah, and stays in Mecca till the 8th of Dhul Hijjah and he starts Hajj again, this is Hajj Tamattu', because Shawwal is one of the months of Hajj. So these are blessed times, and Dhul Qa'dah is a Shahr, a sacred month where the rewards is multiplied and also the sins are multiplied. And we're coming closer to the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, which is the best days of the dunya, as the Prophet ﷺ called it, and in it is Faridatul Hajj. And even if a person is not going for Hajj, it's a good thing to get to know also the rulings of Hajj. And this is the way of the ulama at these times, to talk about Hajj and to talk about the virtues of Hajj and the rulings of Hajj. And some people maybe had applied and they got the chance to go, or they missed. With the intentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. You can go far beyond your action by your sincere intentions. So I have always the intentions to go for Hajj and to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept, inshallah, and to make it easy for each and every one, those who are seeking rewards from Allah. There was any things from the previous talk or anything that is not clear? طيب تفضل.